Hey everybody, today we're going to talk about some old roles and stereotypes, the nag and the avoidant husband, and what you can do to not live in these old, sorry, tired roles and make a new great life together.
We're Rebecca and Brad, partners in love and friends first. We've been married for 18 years and we're deciding to break things up.
So join us for some honest conversations about being real people together in the small and big moments so we can all create great relationships together.
All right, so our story starts with Christmas vacation here. And Brad has been able to be home more, which has been awesome. We've done a lot of fun things, but one dynamic that kept coming up was that around meal times, I would feel like, oh, I need to make the meal. And it's been COVID forever. I'm not using babysitters. You know the drill if you're there in a similar situation as me. I'm tired of making meals. I'm tired of thinking of what to feed the kids and never having, a full day off from meals and children's needs and stuff. So I'm thinking, it'd be great if he could make the meal. So he comes in from doing some stuff outside, some work. Fair enough. But he starts making his own food. And I'm like, hey, what are you doing there? And can you, and I make hints about including the kids and I in the meal. But I don't actually ask for it. You want to jump in?
Sure. I think you laid it out pretty well.
This is a setup. Classic setup.
Yeah. No, I think exactly what you said. I came in from being outside. I'd been out there for a couple or at least an hour, and just asked, if you guys had, if you had gotten the kids breakfast, because it hadn't happened before I went out there. Like I hadn't done it, and you had, we just hadn't done it, and you said yeah, and so I'm thinking, okay, well I'm hungry. I didn't eat, so I'm gonna eat something now. So in my mind, you guys had eaten sometime in the last hour or two, whenever time had been outside. So it was like, they wouldn't want any food. And so, but we have this sort of, I guess it's not a very good joke, but the sort of joke thing where like sometimes when it's just she and I home,
decided to stop the joke because it's not so
she'll
funny.
start making food because we just eat on
Yeah.
different schedules. Like during the week, we're on different schedules, and so a lot of times on the weekends, we sort of, at least that middle of the day thing kind of lines up differently. And so a lot of times she'll start making herself something at like lunchtime, and then I'm like, oh, I'm hungry too, and so I'll make something different because she's already
better than me.
So then she's always jealous of my food. So this time she was saying something, and I was
Oh,
like,
why didn't you invite me?
Yeah.
You already had your food.
Right.
And I'm like,
but kind of like you guys
Yeah.
might experience, over the years of our relationship, sometimes those things that are, jokes are really sore points, and it's something that's underground or not being spoken that, that one person is upset about in this case. And so
obviously.
yeah, so that's what was happening. So I think you should continue on with your.
So he makes his own meal, and then I'm doing stuff like making pies for Christmas or something. And then I'm like, the kids need food now, and just feeling irritable, and also like the whole racket of like, oh, I have to do all the meals. Like, why can't he do a meal? And then just starting to feel resentful and kind of poking at him. And then I can't remember how exactly it went down, but I know at some point I'm like pretty irritated, right? And then I share something with him, and then or say, hey, this, why did you not include us? And then my anger came to a little bit of a boil, right? And I took some time alone to like vent some steam off, and then I'm like, you know what? This for me is tapping into where I feel like he's doing his own thing and he doesn't care about us, and or isn't looking out for the kids and I, and just taking care of his own needs, and sort of my own program of like, I'm always taking care of everyone else, and how that's not fair and that's sexist, and all those stories. But to clue it into the care part was essential for me to identify in myself, because I know he loves me, and I know he wants to care for us, and that's something we've been actively working on. So I could tell myself the truth in that moment. And the other thing is, it became more clear how I would love that, that specific type of care over the weekend. And see, boiling something down to clarity makes it possible that I don't have to nag and hint and sort of hope and then be disappointed, but I can just say, hey, on the weekends, what if you make lunch, and we just set that up, or we talk about it, around 11 o'clock and see who's making lunch, or see, we get takeout, like making a plan that actually works and being clear enough to decide together, hey, this is what we're doing. And when I can set that ahead into a specific plan, I'm relying on the fact that we love each other, that we're a team, and that I can have what I want, and I don't have to kind of hope for scraps, or hope my hints are taken, and participate in that sort of classic codependent sad wife stuff.
Well, I think two things
Yeah.
that like, I think one thing that's like really valuable in what you're saying is like, we've been together for however long you said at the beginning,
Like,
20
yeah,
years.
20 years.
And
More than 20,
more
because
than
we've
20.
been together
Right.
5 years before we were married.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a long time and we've been, actively working on a relationship now for a while and all these things. But there's territories you bump into where there's like unspoken expectations
Yeah.
that don't necessarily line up, and they're not going to, because they're unspoken. Like, how could they line up? I mean, you get lucky if some
Right.
unspoken expectation lines up, but most of the time they don't. And so even during that interaction, when Rebecca first started talking, when you first started saying something to me, I was like, I'm willing to do the meal. And you were like, that's not the point. I don't know how you said it, but basically that was missing the point, because what you wanted was to not, what you really wanted was clarity. And how you were saying it then was not to be the one to have to manage whether I do the meal or you do the meal, but so that it's not, so that there's a clarity. And
I
so I
wanted
think,
clarity, and I wanted the care, and so what I understood from thinking more and considering more, and being allowing myself the anger and the feelings of disappointment, was that I hadn't, that is a type of care that is really nourishing to me that I hadn't yet identified, which is cool, because it's like, whatever, I'm a 45-year-old woman, and I still get to learn more about myself, and I get to ask for what I want. Like, I want this type of care because this is awesome.
well, I think
Yeah.
where I'm headed is
Yeah.
that, I mean, that's true, and that's a piece of the clarity pie, because
Yeah.
that kind of care only exists when there's that clarity that we didn't have. And so, yeah, that's great to identify, because then you
Yeah.
know more specifically how to shape
Exactly
the
what I
clear
want.
lines and the roles. But
Mhm.
in sort of like even a bigger sort of context, in terms of more broadly, like applies to more situations, is that was a zone where we had unspoken expectations, and so it was a setup for unhappiness,
Right.
and that's why we had that joke we were talking about earlier, because that's like a way, that's like underground way of like letting off steam when something is actually something that makes you upset.
Like him always having better lunches than
Right.
me
Yeah.
on
Clearly, it's all
Saturdays,
it's all
how is that fair?
clearly this whole thing is we've worked it all the way through, but
We're not competitive,
yeah.
though. All right.
But it's like finding out those places, because you had the experience of you tracked yourself, you felt upset, and you tracked it to the care piece you're sharing now.
Yeah.
And that opens the door for us to be like, okay, here's the clarity, and then everybody can have what they need. Like for me, well, there's a bunch of pieces of it, but it's like, I'm not here during the week at lunchtime typically. And so I don't even like clock the timing in terms of the kids' need for lunch. Like, I'm there with breakfast, there with dinner, but like lunch is sort of this amorphous like thing that happens at random times in my my own inner clock. And so there's no clarity to it for me. And so that's where I was like, I'm willing, but I'm also willing, for us to set a clarity, like, okay, Saturday and Sunday, lunchtime, that's me, or Saturday is you, or however we, we work it out.
Right.
Obviously, we still have this piece to like really nail down how we're doing it. But in your case out there, whatever these areas are, getting that clarity, it's like creating a foundation of that teamwork, right? We're actually in it together,
Right.
right? We actually both want the kids' foods and needs met.
Mm-hmm.
We both want it to be something that's not a like a sore spot where
Mm-hmm.
one of us is feeling upset, like where she starts having anger that she's like poking at me, and I start like you know wanting to back away because like I don't want to touch that, not knowing what's going, like it just sets off in the old roles, and rather with that clarity, it's like just like you open the door to actually creating the life you want together. um, and
Mm-hmm.
so that was really the revelation here is, and so that set off a cascade of things in our own family life in terms of creating more clarity of roles, identifying it for the kids, like where you can use
Yeah.
whatever, however you want to identify. We decided to use gemstones. And so like in our
Mm-hmm.
world now, if we tell each other and the kids, or any of us, that it's team diamond, that means both of us are on, where the parent, you can come to either of us for whatever's going on. We're equal. One of us might, in terms of meals, like in team diamond, maybe we'll do it together, or at least talk about it together. When it's team sapphire, it's Rebecca's on. Maybe like I've just come home from work, so I need some time to sort of transition to family life, or whatever the case may be. And so that's team sapphire, so kids go to her for their needs, and she's responsible for those type of things. Team emerald is me, so that's where I'm the one that the kids come to, and I'm the one responsible for all the needs in the household and the family. And so just having that clarity alone, without
Right.
even saying who's making lunch on the weekends, just like having those things has, like I feel like, phew, like my
Yeah.
muscles can relax a little bit,
Yeah, this
more.
was our coach's idea because we went to our coach and we were sharing about this situation because that always helps to bring more insight and creativity and creative solutions. Just get created
Yeah,
in
for
in
sure.
those situations in our coaching sessions. And she had
Totally.
this awesome idea, but we
Right.
really resonated with gemstones.
Sure.
It could be apples and oranges,
Right.
or
Whatever you want.
yeah,
Yeah.
just A, B, and C, or whatever. Yeah, however
Mm-hmm.
you want to decide to label it. But our kids love the gemstones, of
Uh-huh.
course, and they're like, "Oh, okay, we're on Team Sapphire right
Right.
now."
Right. Totally.
So it's it's really so empowering to be able to decide this is exactly what we're doing, instead of feeling like because in the past I would always feel like, okay, I'm just always on, and this is like, oh, I'm not on,
Right.
So,
Well, and
I'm reading my book.
one of the things for
Mm-hmm.
me, like why, like when she suggested this, and then we started looking at how to implement it, that it made some like I was like, oh, I can relax, I can take a deeper breath, because a lot of times, those dynamics of that unspoken expectations, all the stuff we've been talking about, especially if you've been building those over years, like we have, it's like it all feels really complicated. And that's sort of how
Right.
that coaching session started. It's like, well, this, and how do we do, and it was like, and it was great that she was just like, like, stop talking about all that, like, do you have this kind of thing set up? And we're like, oh no. And so like set that up, and then it was
Mm-hmm.
like, because it's such like a faithful move too, because setting that up, it's like with the old story, it's like, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but in your story, in your mind at that time, it's
Mm-hmm.
like, like I like it, the underlying thing is like somehow I'm somebody who doesn't want to be that equal team player with you, like that's
Right.
the condition set up. But the
Right.
truth is that I am. And so having the clarity allows, it's like a trust in the other person, and what they say they want is what they really want.
Yeah.
And so what I'm saying is like it's really complex, when you're in it, but the solution is so crystal clear,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh,
There's always an
oh,
actionable step
yeah,
too. So you can be wherever you're at in your development. Like he might not be, super skilled yet at thinking of, oh, it's lunchtime, when he's with the kids on a day that they need lunch or something.
an emerald
But
day.
Emerald Day, yeah. But knowing that that's part of his job, and considering it, and will get him the development he needs as he goes along,
For sure.
So that's the point. You know, we get to fill in where we have holes in our development, and where I'm not strong in asking for what I want. It's like a clear thing. Oh, I got to ask for exactly what I want. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, what is it? And I think about it, and then I do, and it can be hard at times, but that doesn't matter, because I know I'm giving myself the skill that's going to make me stronger and have a happier life, instead of just whining and nagging and being sad that my life, you know, isn't what it is, what I want it to be.
Right. Because
So,
nobody wants a relationship with the nag and
no.
the avoidant husband. That's terrible. Terrible way to live.
Yeah.
So hopefully you gain some value from this. Look for places in your relationship where you can create more clarity. I mean, just dive in there, and any of these little zones. How can we create a clarity around it? And it
Yeah.
might not be easy. Like maybe you might say, that like on the weekends I want you to do lunch, and I'm like, I don't want to do lunch. That's terrible. And you'll have to work some of these
We'll
pieces.
figure it out. Yeah.
But that the ground floor is that you're creating that clarity will make everything else work so much better. So if
Please
you like
make
our
sure,
videos, make sure to hit the
like.
subscribe button. Yeah, like the video,
Subscribe,
subscribe,
hit the
and
bell notification.
yeah, and so
all
we'll
that good stuff.
yeah, because we'll keep sharing our journey along and share with you guys, and in the comments, share what what you're discovering, where maybe your clarity is. Ask any questions. We're happy to interact with you guys down there, and we'll see you next time.
Okay, thanks.
Bye.
Bye.